And here it is, folks, the fourth Grand Prix Series tournament for the candidates final to play Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship. My buddy from the U.S., Carl Nakamura, is in it. Don't miss any of the action. This is going to be a great tournament. Here is the lineup, folks, for the fourth in a series of FIDE Grand Prix tournaments. This one being played in Conti Masquique from May 14th through the 26th. Look at this lineup. Fabiano Caruana, rated over 2,800, representing Italy, soon to represent the United States. And I'll make a point here, this fall, I guess, he can change over to the U.S. He has dual citizenship. Out of the top 10 players in the world now, America represents 3 of them, since Wesley So from the Philippines switched his federation to the U.S. Number 2, my buddy, Carl Nakamura. Almost 2,800. He went over the 2,800 mark about a month and a half ago. Great player. I expect a lot of good things from a Carl. His chance to get in the candidates final. Huge deal. Third, Alexander Grishuk. I think incredibly underrated. You don't hear a lot about Alexander, but I'll tell you, he's a top player. Young Anish Giri from the Netherlands. Another one to watch out for. Maxime LaGrave from France. Another great player. Sergei Karyakin, oh my God, another great player. Thomas Eski, who I believe is leading in points so far in the Grand Prix Series, another great player. Boris Gelfand, older but still got the guns. World Championship challenger against Vishy Anand, lost in a tiebreak. Yakovenko, another great player. Peter Fiddler, really interesting guy, another great player. We'll see which Peter shows up. If the good Peter shows up, he can be really tough. A guy I like personally, Leonardo Dominguez from Cuba, another great player. When he's playing on, he's on. And a really exciting player, Jobava from Georgia. You never know what the hell Jobava is going to do. The games are always fun to watch. And there's the lineup, folks, of the final Grand Prix tournament to determine the candidates to be in the final tournament to play for the World Championship. Don't miss any of the action. This is going to be great. And here are the standings after 4 rounds in the fourth in a series of Grand Prix tournaments. Fabiano Caruana, Italian-American, 3 points, playing really well, +2 on 4 games. Tied for second, Peter Fiddler, 1 win, 3 draws, +1. Leonardo Dominguez, I like Leonardo, he's a cool guy. 2.5 points, same score as Peter. With 2 points, quite a few. Sergei Karyakin, who's playing really solidly with 4 draws, but can't seem to push the win button. Same with my buddy Carl Nakamura from the United States. 4 draws, that's okay. Waiting for his chance. Grishuk also with 4 draws. Tomaszewski a little different with his 2 points. 2 draws and 1 win. And I will have to say, though, Tomaszewski I think he had good winning chances in both games, especially one. But it's the way it goes. Gelfand, of course, 4 draws, solid player. Real championship challenger. And the bottom 4, Anish Giri, Maxime LaGrave, Jobava, and Yakovenko. I think Yakovenko he can play better. Anyway, folks, that's the standings after 4 rounds. Hi, folks, Cordisco back again. Round 4 of the 4th in a series of FIDE tournaments, Grand Prix tournaments. Determine the qualification for the candidates final. And that winner goes on to play Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship. This game, Maxime LaGrave from France, MVL is white, and Fabiano Caruana, Italian-American, soon to play under the American Federation this fall. Let's get to it. It's going to be a Queen's Gambit declined. Maxime LaGrave is white, Fabiano Caruana is black. Go through the first few moves here. Knight, Rook, Pawn, pretty typical stuff. Queen, Bishop, Knight, Castles. According to the computer, we're at a book. Not as good would have been if those of you guys that were wondering if Bishop takes, check, Pawn takes, That's a nice advantage already for black. After white castles, knight takes, knight takes, knight f6. Just rerouted that knight originally on b8. Okay, pretty typical stuff. Not any really backward pawns. Black needs to develop one more minor piece. Queen to c2, h6 to kick the knight. Knight comes back, and he brings the bishop back. Interesting. Top three choices in the computer were castles, bishop d6, which he did, and bishop e7. Just didn't want that knight coming in here, I would assume. Knight e5 anyway. Tempting to take that. It really is. But he doesn't. Knight comes back. h3. Got tired of that knight going in and out of there. Small advantage for white at this point. Pretty typical stuff. Black finally castles knight to e5. Just wants to leave that knight there. a6. Interesting move. Computer likes knight to d7 just to chase the knight off. I kind of like that myself. But a6 for Fabiano. Who am I to question the number 2 rated player in the world now? Boy, I gotta tell you, I'm pretty proud. Carl Nakamura, I believe, is 4 or 5 now. Was number 3 just not 2 weeks ago. Fabiano Caruana is number 2. Wesley So just switched to the American Federations in the top 10. So soon we're going to have 3 out of the top 10 here in the United States. Pretty proud of that. It's going to be an amazing Olympiad with those 3 guys. And plus there's Sammy Shanklin who just tore things up in the Olympiad. Absolutely monster. Alexander Lenderman, Kamsky if he wants to play. Looks good for the U.S. in the Olympics this time. F4, C5. Going to open up, go right after white center. Interesting move here. D takes C5 is the computer's choice, but MVL decided to go G4. Now he wants to push F5. Start getting those pawns rolling. It's a little dangerous to move the pawns in front of your king, but queen's on the other side of the board, so I think that was a calculated risk. C takes, E takes, and bishop E6 just to reinforce that only center pawn of black. Queen to B3 and B5. Interesting to be sure. Tiny advantage according to the computer for white. When I say tiny, I mean tiny, 0.13. So he's going for it. And that's also, the computer likes king to G2, believe it or not. And knight to E2. I mean, these computers, they're just pure calculation. They have no instinct. F5, everybody would play that. There's no way not to. Queen to B6. What to do, what to do? You'll see, of course, that if pawn takes, queen takes check, picking up the knight. Next move. Knight F3, bishop C8, and he moves the bishop after that. Now king goes to G2. This is stop that annoying check. About 2/3 of a pawn advantage for black. We're going to see if those kingside pawns for white, moving them was a problem. Bishop B7. I like knight A4, and that's what he did. The other 2 choices in the computer are pretty close. Rook F to E1, typical stuff. I like knight to A4. You're looking to eyeball the knight here. Queen comes back, knight to C5. Rook A4. Interesting. You see why, of course, pawn can't take. Queen takes, wins the piece. Bishop takes, pawn takes. Interesting might have been, and this is the computer's take on it. Rook takes, pawn takes, queen takes, pawn takes, pawn takes, Queen to C3. I don't know why the computer picked that scenario. White drops the pawn, but after D takes, D4. A takes, Queen takes. Okay, White's up a pawn now. Looks pretty good for Maxime, but it shows a small advantage on the computer for Black. I think a lot of his problem is this open area in here. His king. And this bishop's bearing down. Bishop C6 chases off the queen. Queen goes to D7. Now this is where I think MVL miscues. He wants to get rid of that pin. I mean, that's a human thing. You want to get rid of it. It's a pain in the behind. You want to get your pawns rolling on the queen side, and that bishop's blocking the past Black's D pawn. What to do, what to do. Computer likes queen to B4. Put a little pressure on the D pawn, and I agree. King to G1 is the second choice, but right now it's starting to slip away from White, and it looks okay, but it's really not. King to G1. If you had gone queen to B4, after queen to C7, rook comes over, knight, queen takes, and that's a pretty good advantage for Black, almost 2 points. Even though he's down 2 pawns, that's a tough nut right there. All kinds of threats going on. Knight's going to get in. Knight can come here. This bishop's bearing down. This queen's looking on the king side. So moving those pawns probably wasn't a good idea. After knight to G1, rook comes over. Wants to trade. Rook takes. Knight takes and rook takes is about the, well, actually knight takes is a lot better than that's what Maxime did. Rook comes over. Knight goes back to G2 to give some cover for White's king now. That attack went nowhere. Knight to D5. Queen comes back. I mean, what's he going to do here? Could get that queen back in the defense. Knight to E3. Knight takes, pawn takes. Not rook takes. Because after queen checks, F6, rook, king takes. It's still a huge advantage for Black. Down a piece. Queen to C4. It's looking bad for Maxime. Queen C7. Queen F4. He's looking to trade queens, and he does. Rook takes. E2. He has to take it. Rook takes. Rook to B4. He's thinking with these 2 passed pawns, he might have some chance. But after rook to G2 check, king to F1, rook to C2, he can't defend that pawn. He can't defend the C pawn. So he's doomed. Give you an idea. Rook to B8. King goes to H7, and that's it. He's stuck. So Maxime resigns. Tough break for Maxime. And Caruana is just rolling along. Maybe announcing he was enjoying the U.S. Federation gave him a little bit of enthusiasm there, a little bit of push. Anyway, folks, that's the other game from round 4 of the 4th Grand Prix tournament. I hope you enjoyed it. I want you all to remember, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.